Oh, they've done it! Simon Terodde, an instant hero! Can you believe it? Plenty attacking! No! The comeback is complete! A stunning second half from Schalke!
Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Herzlich willkommen zurück auf SchalkeMerica. Welcome to episode 179 of SchalkeMerica. I'm your host, Richard Carmen. I can't even say my own name. This podcast is going to be a great podcast. Well, let me welcome you to my co-host, the more eloquent Jack Mangan. How we doing, Jack?
Was that Carmen with an N in the middle there? Was that what
Karaman, just like the player.
Oh, Carmen. Okay, there you go. Yeah, Keenan Carmen. I'm doing all right, sir. Better than you were this weekend, from what I heard.
Yeah.
Still have winter bugs going around at this time of year, unfortunately. Spring seems like it's just around the corner, but we still are susceptible to some viral nastiness these days. But I'll tell you what also is viral: lack of goals apparently in the Schalke squad, because set a Bundesliga record, didn't we, Richard? Tell the folks about it.
We did. We set a Bundesliga record, first time in Bundesliga history that a club has had 4 0-0 games back to back. It's okay. Let me ask you this: you take that as a positive or a negative record? Because we had the other record we almost got a couple years ago, where we almost equaled Tasmania Berlin. So I mean, that was obviously a bad one. What are your thoughts on this record?
Do I take it as a positive or negative? Yes. Which is what we said.
We
said last week. I mean, look, there's been periods of time this season where we've been hemorrhaging goals most of the season. I think we're going to be a broken record on tonight's podcast. At least certainly I am, in the sense that, like, you know, we've had vast stretches of time where we have not looked competitive at a Bundesliga level this season. You know, ever since we made this change, brought Janssen in and Fairman into the lineup, suddenly we've settled down significantly. Rice seems to have gotten us organized, and we've been a very good defensive team, like one of the better defensive teams in the Bundesliga over the past 4 games. The problem is the offense hasn't been able to replicate that success we've had at the other end of the pitch, and we're simultaneously one of the worst offensive teams in the Bundesliga. And you know, I think if we were potentially kind of like a struggling mid-table side or something like that, I would be more excited about the draws. But as we've repeatedly said, like, if we're going to advance out of this position, we have to win games at some point, and we can't score at all right now, and we have to get some goals going if we're going to win games. So I don't know. I'm pleased with some of the improvements I'm seeing, but I am significantly concerned about, you know, the lack of change on the offensive end.
Yeah, as Joseph says, it's a neutral record. Okay, that's better than a negative record. It's kind of what you said, right? And what kind of we've been saying is that, yeah, I mean, it's good in the sense that, yeah, we're defensively we found our rhythm. We're limiting these good teams. I mean, top half table teams, Bundesliga title contender teams, to barely any chances in a game. But on the flip side, we're not creating anything as well. And anyway, so I want to get into real quick before we get into the game. If those of you who haven't visited the SchalkeMerica.com's website, please do. But I want to look at Rice's comments before the match. He basically said, like, look, we got to go there. We got to go to Berlin and win. We have to go and win this game. We needed 3 points. Ties are nice and all, but we have to go out and try to get some points. But we're also not going to compromise defensive structure. And what we saw in the game really was that part was true. They took their chances more so late, but they kept their defensive compactability and did not allow that many opportunities going the other way. And I think that is important, especially with a team that's struggling like this. You can't give up goals because we can't seem to score goals. So might as well keep it 0-0 if we can't score goals ourselves.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we obviously needed more from that game, if we could have gotten it. But I respect, you know, trying to keep things tight and compact and not leave yourself too vulnerable. And that's how it played out. Didn't create a lot. Didn't allow them to create a lot either. I think both teams had probably like less than 1 on the XG. And yeah, you know, I struggle to think of more than 1 or 2 chances from either side that are even, you know, kind of worth noting.
Yeah. 0.9 for Union and 0.37 for Schalke. So, yeah, the opportunities weren't that much. It was actually fairly even in terms of overall statistics. I think the optics would tell you that this is probably the first game of this 4 that I felt we weren't the best team. I thought Union certainly dictated the pace for the majority of this game. But, going back to Rice's comments, I think you got to take this, result as a positive as well, because, before the game, arguably our best player the second half of the season, Kozuki, goes down with an ankle injury. He's been really our only spark plug. Salazar's been struggling, it seems, in the last couple starts that he's had. And then Urunen picked up an injury during the game. So, I mean, considering it's not a bad result, second place team in the league, right? The top, they're tied with first place in the Bundesliga at the moment. So, overall, I mean, it's okay scoreline, I guess. But 0-0 game, right? Looking at the lineup in this one, not much change outside of obviously Drexler for Kozuki with the aforementioned injury. Straight up lineup for you. I mean, no issues really. I mean, Fry seems to be the guy we seem to be favoring at the moment over Terodde, just because his mobility and some of the things he can do that seems to be better at Terodde at the moment. Yeah, that's the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, no issues with it. Very similar core cast that we've seen recently. Nice to have, obviously, Salazar at the number 10. Whether or not you want Drexler to be starting, I think is a conversation, but I'm never usually upset to see him, at least, because he's, once again, does decent things. This game in general, though, was just tough. We, as a team, I don't think did much in possession that was worth noting. Fry, I do feel like I've liked what I've seen out of him recently more than Terodde. So that's another difficult question too, is like when you watch him play, you're not like super frustrated with him for the most part, but he's suffering from the same issue that seems to be plaguing the rest of the squad, which is once we get into the final third, like people can't take clean touches, they can't make the correct decisions, and everything just kind of gets squandered ultimately. So I don't know what the solution is, but a reasonable squad. I don't think there's really any surprises here. The other thing is just, we haven't seen Volante again now 2 games in a row after he came in initially right off the bat, which I think is just interesting. That you would start him so soon and then not see him again. You look at that bench and you're like, okay, Oweyan, Aydin. There's not a whole lot on that you're excited about, you know what I mean? Like in terms of potential. So it's a tough situation right now. And as we talked about last week, you're wondering if they're going to try to bring in additional resources from the youth ranks at some point on the offensive end to try to, like, as they did with Kozuki, try to, like, fire somebody else in there and see if something catches,
Yeah, no, I agree about that. Looking at Sofa score and that, look at the average player positions, which is interesting. Look at Union. They try to play a wide game, but I think due to Schalke played very compact. I mean, look at Ornan, he was way out left, but I mean, for the most part, we were fairly compact, not letting things, get penetrated through the middle. Which is, I see in the last couple of years, maybe 3-4 years, historically, the direct play has been very, opened us up a lot, I think. And I think with Rice going very compact, it's minimized all those direct opportunities, and Union kind of struggled to break that. And to themselves, they're fairly compact as well, because we kind of clogged them into this zone. And I think Urs Fischer said it best, whereas like both teams kind of neutralize each other. That's pretty much what it was. And maybe a little bit of the Ajax, they played Ajax midweek, who they also drew 0-0, had a little bit to do with it. So some of their strong guys, like Geraldo Becker and Pifak, they were starting on the bench, as well as Thorsby. But for the most part, it's a lot of rotation of the guys, and they seem a little tired as well. And you mentioned this last week too, about maybe teams are not necessarily respecting us. They see us at the bottom of the table, like, oh, it's easy win. We're not going to focus as hard, and all of a sudden they got a mouthful, of Schalke, and they're facing a dentist chair type kind of game.
I was not impressed with Behrens and Mikel from the start. I don't really think. I mean, it was interesting too, because when they were playing was more. I mean, obviously in the first half, when I thought that Union was stronger in the game overall, I felt like in the second half, at least for the first, 25 minutes of it or so, I thought Schalke came out of the gates pretty well and had the better run of play. But then ultimately, when they brought on Geraldo Becker and then Jordan as well, that's when things got a little bit more dangerous at the end of the match. Again, I think Becker using his pace was able to get into the wide areas to receive the ball and then whip crosses in for Peapod, making those runs to like near post and everything. And a couple of close calls on some of those crosses where, required some pretty tight and physical defending on Pifak to try to, stop him from having tap-ins or, very close opportunities with Fairman. So yeah, definitely kind of avoided a couple of close issues at the end, but in general, looking okay.
Yeah, and one, we talk about Raul hasn't really been threatened much in the previous 3 games. Well, in this game, he certainly had one opportunity for sure. He made a world-class save. We can see it on the screen where I forget who had the shot. I don't remember anymore, but I mean, great save by him because it looked like it was going to crossbar and in. And that was a big play. He doesn't get called on often in the last 4 games, but he came out huge in that play there because had they scored, I think it would have been lights out. We wouldn't have been able to score a goal there. But good game for him overall. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. Like we started slow. They kind of took over the play of the game. And I thought at the end we started like putting some pressure in. I thought we were going to get a late goal, like a gut punch for them, but didn't end up happening with Tarota and Bulter. And I forget who came up for Bulter at the end. But yeah, it was a okay performance, 0-0. I think you and I probably would have gladly taken this 0-0 scoreline prior to the game, right? Or this tie against number 2 team in the league prior to the game, just because considering how much they beat us in the first game, 6-1 in the first encounter. But looking at the game, it's in all 4 of these games, it's points that we lost because you look at the table and there's 6 points separating the bottom 4.
Yeah, exactly. I think in any one of those games you would have taken the 0-0 draw, but you don't want to take 0-0 draws for all of the games, which is what we've ultimately done now. Yeah, I mean, like we have to find a way to get a dub at some point. We can't just pick up these 1 point. It's not helping us climb the table because Bochum, for example, will get blown out 3 games in a row, and then they'll win a game.
And they'll win a game, yeah, 5-2.
And then so even if we're drawing those 3 games, then we're just back level with what where they are. They can jump and make more progress. Obviously, without as many quality performances. So yeah, we just gotta try to keep as much of this defensive level as possible, which we've been doing consistently. This was another big test that we passed ultimately. Yoshida and Jens have been fantastic together. Brunner, I think, is better at this point in the season than he has been earlier in the year. I mean, he's putting in solid performances. Ernen and Oweyan are fine, for the most part. Like, I don't think there's issues. And then, Krall and Kraus are doing well. Krall's having a pretty good impact going forward as well, which is surprising. I thought Kraus, when they started partnering, because Kraus liked to maraud a little bit. I felt like since he's been partnering with Krall's had the bigger impact on the offensive end. I don't know how you feel about that, but
yeah, no, I felt that too, because I thought with the 2 together, for sure, Kraus is going to be the one pushing up, as we've seen, early in the season, and Krall will be the one staying back. But no, it's been a very much like a David Luiz type effect, and I know they had the similar hair and everything, but when he played defensive midfielder, when he did, he would do the same thing, where he would come up and run up the pitch and try to score goals, and you see Krall getting an impact in there, and Kraus really staying back, which is fine. I mean, he's smooth on the ball, can filter the ball away, kind of like Weltmeister Maximilian Meyer used to do for us, right? Really quietly and do his job. And so, that's been very surprising to me, I think, to see how much impact Krall has had on the offensive side. I'll tell you another thing that really surprised me, honestly, is Salazar's lack of involvement. I think the last 2 games, he's struggled, I think, and especially in this game. I remember it wasn't until like 35th minute or something when they finally mentioned his name. I was like, I forgot he was on the pitch because he was quiet. And I'm always wondering if he's better as a super sub at this point. I mean, granted, it was Union Berlin, but they didn't do anything that I thought was too crazy. I think we're just getting in our own ways. What are your thoughts on Salazar and his lack of impact at the moment?
I mean, I would say that he still had a couple key passes in this game, so he was contributing in terms of coming up in key moments and playing a nice an important ball. But like, I know what you mean, and I do think sometimes when he comes in off the bench and is the fresh legs, there's more of a contrast drawn, and he can impact things that way, especially because we talk about how good he is on the dribble, which requires a lot of that pace and everything. So yeah, maybe his overall ball progression isn't as strong when he's playing 90 minutes or as electric, but in general, I mean, I don't think that's going to stop you from starting him from the moment. Because the other question is like, who else are you playing? That you bringing Schalke back in on the left and then playing Bolter at cam? Like, you can. I mean, it's fine. I think Salazar, as we've said repeatedly, he just has, even if he has 1 or 2 bad games here and there, like, he has an X factor that few other players in the squad have. And particularly when you talk about a team, as we've been talking about all podcasts so far, that is in desperate need of goals, anybody that's capable of scoring them has to be in consideration as much as possible. And he's the kind of guy that can, pull something out of a hat and make something happen. So
he is he's one of the few, I think he's the hardest shot on the team, and I think he's the only one who's like willing to take those long distance shots. Maybe Krall as well, but Salazar, we certainly need him to like kind of step up and take charge, honestly. And so we'll see. I mean, again, it's a good draw. Ultimately, it's a good draw against Union Berlin, a difficult team to play here. But now, come down the stretch, we got relegation 6-pointer up ahead with Stuttgart and Bochum, 2 games we have to win. I mean, we have to win. I mean, in theory, we could 0-0 our way out to the rest of the season and possibly survive, but I'm not going to rest my laurels on this. We have to win against Stuttgart. We have to win against Bochum.
I mean, obviously, any combination of scenarios and timelines can play out, but I do agree that when you look at where we are at the moment, it feels like the outcome of this campaign is probably going to be decided in the next 2 weeks. Where, I mean, that is to say, if we have, two draws or 2 losses, something along those lines, where we're not picking up any sort of significant points haul against teams that we need to take points off of as much as possible. Once again, when you have the relegation 6-pointers, it's like that double impact that you don't get in other games. You feel like if we don't get it done these next couple of weeks, it probably isn't going to happen, because it's going to require us to go on some sort of other run against other opponents later in the season. You know what I mean? We still have Dortmund coming up, right?
Yep. Augsburg after
Bayern
Dortmund.
still, right? Yeah.
Bayern.
So there's Leipzig. No, we're done with Leipzig, right? Yeah.
No, the last game of the season.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So then we have Leipzig as well. So yeah.
The last 3 games is a gauntlet. The last 3 games, you got Bayern, Eintracht, and Leipzig. I mean,
yeah. I mean, we can talk about like, oh wow, we did really well against like Wolfsburg and Gladbach and Union Berlin, but like, yeah, there's a stretch at the end of the season that's going to be a little bit tougher than that. So, this is really the opportunity that we have at the moment to try to make something happen, and we need to take advantage of it.
And ultimately, have to beat the teams that are right next to you, right? We have obviously, you got like, it seems like it lines up as relegation 6-pointers back to back to back. It seems like, because you got Stuttgart and Bochum, right? Then you got the Dortmund River Derby. Augsburg's kind of hanging around the middle, as well as Leverkusen. Then you got Hoffenheim and Hertha. You got to win both those games, right? Freiburg's gonna be difficult. They're top of the table. Werder, why not? And Mainz, you got to beat Mainz. But I mean, those four or 5 teams, you have to beat them if you want any chance of saving yourself.
Yeah, there's a couple of these opportunity zones in the calendar, and we have to take advantage of them. We've done well to steady the ship to significantly improve our performances and competitiveness overall. And now the next thing that's just lacking is the results, and these are prime opportunities and important ones because of where these teams are on the table alongside us.
I'll tell you what's not lacking is the support by the road team. I mean, look at that! Look at that crowd. I mean, that was a beautiful shot. That's a great shot. It looked like it was framed that way, but the crowd was really amazing in this one. And obviously, the team obviously supported that. And interesting comments by Ralph Fairman after the game. It says we've really put a heavy focus on strong performance yesterday. Not many teams have come to Copenhagen, which is in Berlin, and got something from them. And over the last few months, we did it. However, a point isn't enough. We need to win games. So, I mean, yeah, he's right. And this is what kind of Rice has been saying. Everyone's been saying this. And the next 2 games are must wins. And we get to visit an old friend of ours, Stuttgart Americana. They're just as much. I mean, we talked about how these last 4 games that maybe these teams necessarily didn't respect us or weren't really up to the game. I guarantee Stuttgart will be. I guarantee as will Bochum. Right, we're all in the same spot. We're all facing relegation potentially, and they're going to be up for it. And so Schalke, we're going to need goals. We need goals. It's plain and simple. I don't care who scores them. I don't care if Fairman scores it. We got to find ways to get goals for us. So it's gonna be difficult. I mean,
but I agree. The word's out at this point. I don't think we're catching teams by surprise anymore. I think anybody that plays us the rest of the season is going to say like, hey, like Thomas Rice has something cooking here to some extent. Once again, just in terms of like, you cannot roll us over. You have to actually come and be prepared to have a game plan. So I think they'll be prepared. And as you said, these next couple teams, of course they are, because they understand how extra important these fixtures are against, relegation opponents. So the question is just like, what do we do going forward? Kazuki will be back in the lineup, which will certainly help. I'm assuming his ankle injury is not a long-term thing, right?
I hope not.
Do we know if there's...
No, he said it's one of these things. Rice said he's one of these things that you kind of let nature take its course, let him rest and rehabilitate, and hopefully he'll start walking fine soon. So we'll get an update, I'm sure, here in the next couple of days. The pre-match conference is probably at least a few days away still, so we'll get an update then. But I hope it's nothing. I hope it's something minor. They kept him out.
I hadn't seen anything suggesting he was going to be out long term, so hopefully he's back soon. If he is, that's obviously going to help. Fry better than Torrado, but still hasn't scored much, so it's kind of hard to really draw a distinction. And you look around on the squad and you just don't really see a clear place where goals are going to be coming from.
Yeah.
It's got to be Salazar, right? You know what I mean? And as you said earlier, he hasn't been looking great the last couple of games. So,
yeah, exactly. You got to scrap for these 1-0 games, as Anthony says. It's interesting because it's funny. A funny stat I heard during the game, and I don't remember if it was Julia Simic or the guy who was the main commentator in the game, but they said that Schalke's leading goal scorers are co-leaders, I should say, Bulter and Tarota, 3 goals apiece. They combined for like 33% of the goals so far this season for Schalke. Schalke's will score 14 goals. It's like, it's nice to see that your two best players, or arguably two best strikers, are joint leading scorers on the team. They scored majority of the goals, but when you only score 14 goals, it's like, okay, that's a kick in the stomach that, hey, we haven't scored anything this year, and it's well, we got to change that. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. I don't remember what I was gonna say. Probably not important. This is me in an ideal world, and this is ideal world because we're not living in that fantasy at the moment. But we handle our business for the next I don't know 6 to 8 weeks, and then the last 3 games against Bayern, Eintracht, and Leipzig won't even matter. We're comfortably out of the relegation conversation, but of course we don't live in that conversation, right? Remember last year we fought tooth and nail to the very end to seal our promotion. We're probably gonna be in the same situation this year. Probably need a miracle over Bayern or something. We'll see. But Stuttgart, thoughts, expectations for Stuttgart coming up?
Their form in the second half of the season has been all over the place. I think if you look at their last 7 games, like I think they've won 2 or 3, lost 2 or 3, drawn 2. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like you don't really know what you're going to get with them. They're coming off a win against, I think, Cologne, where they were at least firing and finding the back of the net, something we haven't been able to do. I would like to think that we can slow them down in the way that we have done against other opponents recently, but we'll see. They definitely, I think, are slightly more high scoring than we are, which isn't to say they're doing well, but obviously when we're sitting at 14 goals, whatever it is, they're capable of doing a little bit more on the offensive end. So, I'm optimistic that, as they said in the chat just now with Anthony, like maybe a 1-0 win, at least or maybe a 2-1 if we can somehow find a way to score 2 goals out of nowhere, but keep it low scoring and then try to hit them.
Too bad the Pokal is in the following Wednesday, right? Against somebody, they have really something to play for. They're still in the Pokal. They play Nuremberg. But look, some of the results you talked about recently, obviously beating Cologne 3-0. Lost to Freiburg 2-1. Freiburg's 3 points off the top of the table. Lost to Werder 2-0. Lost to Leipzig.
So they've been keeping it tight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are not blowout losses. When they are dropping. Managed to get something out of the game with Hoffenheim despite having the red card. I don't know when the red card took place. I don't know how long they were playing with that, but
late in the game, but
anyway,
yeah. So it's a game we're gonna have to, obviously, we know that they have danger men on their team. They're just because they're mid-table or towards the bottom fighting relegation, don't have dangerous players. And as someone mentioned in the chat, I think Sanjar mentioned, their left flank is pretty dangerous, and it seems like controlling the flank play is big for us because it seems like when balls are in the middle, as of late, that's not been the case. But when the ball comes in the middle, we tend to struggle with those plays, and set piece opportunities we struggle as well. So containing that, I think, is going to be huge for us. And there's no plan. And in point simple is we got to score. We can't give up anything defensively, but we have to find ways to go to goals. And I don't care where it comes from, like we said. So let's see what happens. Game is on his game is on Saturday, I think it is. I don't recall now. Lost it.
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. So we'll see. But anything else you want to talk? Oh, our friends at Stuttgart Americana, they did have a question for us for tonight. It's an interesting question. It's a little bit a fun type of question here. And so their question was, well, first they're like, who's going to win this game on Saturday, and why is it going to be them? And then he said, no, seriously, who is the most memorable shared player coach between the two teams? Tarota, Hoop Stevens, Darko, Kaminsky, Kabak, Iogo, or Karani? Your thoughts?
I'm confused by the question. Wait.
So all these players or coaches were for both Stuttgart and Schalke at some point in their careers.
Gotcha.
So which of these players that we've shared amongst each other is the best?
I was reading that the wrong way, and I was very confused what the question was asking. Most memorable. See, like Karani goes back to like the origins of my time as a Schalke fan. So like that's kind of like when he was at Schalke, that's when I first started following the team, and that's kind of the inception of my fandom. So I have a soft spot in my heart, probably for that answer. What would you say?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, Darko's recent memory, right? And as is Kabak, and he didn't really work out for us. Algo's a decent, okay player. Kaminsky worked for us last year. This year's kind of been disappeared, which is another mystery in itself. And Hub, obviously, Hub and Toronto, there's Toronto, what he did last year, then Hub, obviously. But I'm with you, man. I think Karani, man. Karani is what really got me into it. And Sanjar said the same thing. I mean, Karate is what got me to Schalke. Same thing with you, and just what he did. I mean, he's such a big game player. Great, it's great what Toronto did for us last year and got us promotion. No disrespect to him and Hub as well. But Karani, what he did against Dortmund in some of those years, man, it was just killed him off a lot of times. And Karani was such a fantastic player. I mean, I enjoyed him. That was the first jersey I ever got was a Kevin Karani jersey, and so obviously it's Kevin Karani for me. So I think we're pretty unanimous.
And when you get the flow going, you let your hair down a little bit, and you have the beard too. You get a little Karani-esque a little bit as well.
That's the only reason I grow it out, man. No,
there you
go. So thank you, Stuttgart Americana. Last time we'll say thank you for the next week or so. But yeah, anything else?
Yeah, Kevin Karani, second best striker in Schalke history after Ahmed Katucu, of course. So
that's right.
Yeah,
free Katucu. Anything else you want to talk about tonight? Keep it short tonight because we went pretty in depth last week.
Keep it short. We'll give them a break from us.
Shout out to everyone who's joined our Discord server, Schalke English site that we can all talk Schalke in one location. If you want to know the location, we'll send another tweet out of the link there, the invite, so you can join as well. But it's a great place for us to talk about during the game, in between games, whatever. Share pics, videos, and all that stuff. Just talk Schalke. So definitely join that and go to SchalkeMerica.com as well. Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
At JMMangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter.
Very good. You can find me at R_KHARMAN pretty much anywhere. Follow Schalke America on all the social medias. Again, we'll go to the website. If you haven't done so yet on the YouTube page, make sure you subscribe and like and leave comments. That would be much appreciated. And then join the Discord server. Chat, thank you again for coming out tonight. Love the conversation. Love the comments. Keep bringing it up. Yeah. Hopefully hopefully I stay healthy so I can maybe get involved in some of these live streams on the weekend, but we'll see. We'll see, Jack. For Jack, I'm Richard, and to the game this weekend. Glück auf.